Hello there. New spot and new head. I shaved my head. Anyway, so today I'm going to be going over how I made all of the armor and all of the attachments I used for my Umbreon cosplay. So I hope you like it, so let's just go ahead and hop into how I made all that. All of the foam I use is from the Foamory. Thank you so much to them for supplying me with foam so that I can keep making stuff. For the breastplate, I made a pattern using paint.net and I traced the pattern onto another layer. I sized it to the size I needed it to be and then I printed it out. I put it onto some 6mm foam and then I cut that out. For the pauldrons, I sketched up the design by hand. The oval will be the top layer. I placed the lower pattern onto some 6mm foam and the oval shaped pattern is on 4mm foam and then I cut them out. I used barge to glue them both together. For all of the detailing on this armor, I used thin strips of 4mm foam. I just put barge on the outside of all the armor where the trim will go and I pressed it on. The foam is bendy so it follows the curves nicely. Any excess foam sticking out gets cut off and then sanded with my rotary tool. For all of the little details, such as the stars and crescent moons, I 3D model them and then I print them. Most of the armor is attached with niobium magnets. I make sure to sand one side of them first so the glue has something to stick to. For the bracers, I wrap my arm in cling wrap and masking tape to make a pattern. Be careful not to wrap too tight and always add seam allowance. Once I transferred my pattern onto some paper, I slapped that onto some 6mm foam and I cut out 2 of them. After that, I measure out the zippers. Zippers are a really awesome way for tight-fitting armor to attach. For the raised edges on the bracers, I cut out this 4mm shape and I glue them onto the bracers. I also 3D print 2 stars for the bracers. I made sure to heat blast all of my foam pieces after sanding them to melt all the fuzzies and then I fit it around my arm. Once I paint the bracers, I attach zippers using a layer of barge and then I go over the seam on the inside with hot glue to keep them secure. Later on, I do go over them again with some super glue just to keep them like extra secure. I used a modified Umbreon Cosplay leg pattern for the leg armor. I cut them out of 6mm foam and then I glued them together. The tops of the shin guards have this cuff, so I'm using this really beautiful embossed velvet for it. I just cut out 2 rectangles, pinned them together, sewed them, turned them right side out, attached vinyl moons, and then I glued them on top of the shin guards after painting. I attached the shin guards with metal buckles and I have these tiny magnets in the straps to keep them from flapping around. There's also a piece of 6mm foam in the cuffs to give them that perfect bulky shape. For the shoes, I use these comfy booties. I cover them in cling wrap and masking tape and I drew on the pattern to create a shoe sock. I cut off the shoe sock pattern and placed that on a 4-way stretch fabric and then I cut it out. I then just started assembling the shoe sock. Once the sock is finished, I cover the shoes once more in cling wrap and tape to create the armor pattern. I cut out the armor patterns and I place them onto 4mm foam and I cut them out. If you ever cut a strip of foam slightly too small, you can always stretch it out and make it fit. Just a tad though. Don't stretch it too far, it'll rip. I ended up adding a zipper into the shoe sock, and that just made it a little bit easier to put on. The armor slips over the shoe and is attached with magnets. The sock unzips and then I can unzip my boot. And that is basically how I get in and out of the shoes. I use my dress form to make a pattern for the neck piece since we're the same size, and so I wrap it in cling wrap and masking tape and then draw on a pattern and cut it out. I place the base pattern on a 2mm foam and then I put these 2mm rectangles on top of it, each one spaced slightly apart. Then I glue on the top and bottom edging. On the back of the collar, there's also plastic boning covered in Warbler, and that's to help keep its shape. All of the paint on the armor was very simple, since it's all one color and it's very clean, there's no weathering on it. I did 2 coats of Plasti Dip before painting. Once it was dry, I covered all of the armor in yellow paint, and then I did several coats of Folk Art gold paint. Once everything was sufficiently covered, I did some slight airbrushing just to create some shadows. I did that with like a brown paint. And that is it for all of the armor. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I made these things. I hope it was informative or interesting. I used all sorts of different attachments, and I think that zippers might be my new favorite. If you like cool crafty stuff, then subscribe. I think I have like one more video on Umbreon and then I'm moving on to something else. So yeah, I hope you have a super awesome rest of the day and I will see you guys next week. Bye.